Hello again, Internet. We are live coming at you on another Monday for another DNVR Avalanche pod. Excited to bring this one to you. Should be an interesting conversation, less directly about the Avs and one a little bit more with a league-wide purview, perhaps. So, more of a Monday show, I guess. I guess we should put it that way. Either way, we can go ahead and jump right into this one, as StravaCraft Coffee is a rich CBD-infused coffee that you can now purchase in K-Cups for your Keurig, or you can also buy their whole bean or ground options. Wow. Support our partners. That helps support us as well. And when you support StravaCraft, you can get 20% off when you buy with code DNVR20 at checkout online. You can also try it before you buy it if you want to go in and around Denver, with places opening back up again. Places like Carbon Cafe, Drip Denver, Slow High Coffee, Blue Sparrow Coffee, and Max Market are offering you StravaCraft coffee as well. The CBD is non-psychoactive, and it's been known to help many different aches and pains. So do go ahead and give it a try and use that DNVR20 code. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. They have over 1,000 different varieties of beer for you to try at either of their two locations in Centennial and Highlands Ranch. I am Rudolph. Joining me, as always, is AJ. Today, based off a conversation we had on our last show and a bit over the weekend during our NHL 20 tournament as well, I wanted to have a conversation about current NHLers that are, first of all, shoo-ins to be Hall of Famers, but also ones that are on a trajectory towards the Hall of Fame. So there are a handful of guys that I think are interesting when it comes to this conversation. You know, you can start out with the obvious. Ovechkin, Crosby, Malkin, I would say even Patrick Kane and Joe Thornton are pretty much locks as Hall of Famers. I don't think there's a ton of doubt with those guys. So not that interesting of a conversation, right? They're going to go, they could retire today and they'd probably make the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, those guys should get in.
So that is what it is. But there's a group of players just behind them, as far as players currently in the NHL, that had they retired today, it would be, I don't know if they would be a lock, certainly, but I think they would at least have to be in consideration. The first of those I would like to jump into here is Joe Thornton's running mate and Patrick Marleau.
You know, before looking at any of the numbers, I probably would have said, oh, he's a 500 goal scorer. He's got so many games played.
Yep.
You know, he's still been very productive, even though obviously sort of the last half of his career, last several years, we're talking about a guy that's slowed down significantly.
Absolutely. You know, he's fifth all time in games played, and we're talking about retiring today, so he wouldn't move up that list, but it would take less than one full season for him to move into first.
Yeah. And you kind of go and you look at his career, and I mean, it's really just been the last couple of years, just the last 5 years, where he dipped below 50 points. He's still been a 20-goal guy. I think I would put him in.
So you're putting Patrick Marleau in the Hall of Fame, but you're not putting Milan Hajduk on the Avs Mount Rushmore because he's an accumulator.
A little bit, yeah. It's a little. I mean, the guy also has 562 career goals.
Sure.
You know, like that's a lot of goals to keep out of the Hall of Fame.
It is. It absolutely is.
And that's kind of the same as like a guy like Dave Andreychuk, where I'm rewarding longevity, even though at no point would you say he was really, you know, he only has a couple of point per game seasons. Right in the heart of his career, he had like that. He had like a 5-year stretch.
Yep.
Where he elevated that game.
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest knock against him, is that he just didn't have an elite stretch where he was, you could go through every single season of his career and you might be able to say there are multiple guys that you might take over him as a wing. Instead, like, that would be the biggest case against him, right? Is that like the peak may not have been very, very high.
With the existence of a Joe Thornton and a little bit further down the line, Joe Pavelski, he was never the best player on his team.
Yeah, but when you are talking about a guy who plays with like a surefire Hall of Famer, it's like, well,
sure. I understand that, but nonetheless, he didn't quite put together a fantastic resume when it comes to awards.
It's not bulletproof.
So,
I will say that. I think this is as borderline as it gets. It's also the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I would like to see what he does internationally. I don't have all that in front of me.
2 gold medals at the one gold medal at the World Championship and 2 Olympic golds with Canada.
I think we're done here.
You think 2 Olympic golds is enough?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings
I think that's. I mean, you're talking about a career that is now spanning 3 different decades, just a ton of success. Even though he never got the cup.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a great transition into this next guy. Someone who,
okay,
these days the Avs probably hate a little bit more, but Eric Staal. He's over 1,000-point player. He's won a cup. He's won an Olympic gold. He's won a world championship. Over 1,200 games played. 436 goals, 585 assists.
It's a great career.
Yeah, nearly,
Did win a cup.
Yep. If you're making the case for Patrick Marleau because he has 2 Olympic gold medals, Eric Staal has a cup and a gold medal at the Olympics, and is a better point producer to this point in his career than Marleau.
And that's one where maybe the late career swoon for Marleau
hurts him a little bit. Yeah.
Definitely though, with Staal, he had a peak, man. Yeah. He had a peak where he was in the late 2000s, early 2010s. He was among the league's best centers.
A 70-point floor player in that.
Yeah,
time.
and well, and a 30-goal scorer. He had. You go and you look at early in his career.
He had multiple 40-goal seasons there,
right? Yeah. But like he had his low mark was 29 after his rookie season.
Yeah,
and then when he kind of hit the lull, they hit the lull, and then everybody will eventually figure it out and kind of move on. I do think that he gets dinged because he looked completely washed by the end in Carolina. I mean,
that last year there was a struggle,
right? And then you don't know, like, is it just because Carolina wasn't very good? Because as soon as he went to Minnesota, he was revitalized again. He puts up another 40 goal season.
Yep.
And obviously, like when you have a career high shooting percentage just sort of randomly drop out of the sky for you, you're like, oh, look, I'm good again. But
I mean, he surrounded it with a 28-goal season, a 22-goal season, and was on pace for certainly more than 20 goals this year if a full season was played. But
this is a hard no. In terms of not like me saying like, oh, easy pass or whatever. I'm going to say no, but it's going to be just barely.
He's one of the ones that like,
this is really
get close. Game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a tough one. When I looked into the research, I think I ended up kind of just on the other side of the fence there, where it's like maybe he just barely squeaks in.
You could, if like somebody were to like pound the table.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's fine. I'm not gonna freak out about that.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I think it's right there. It's a super borderline case, and I'm here for both sides of it.
So if he has one more Olympic gold, is he in?
Probably.
So then,
just because being on those Canadian teams meant you had to be so damn good.
The next person on my list then is Ryan Getzlaf, who does have the 2 golds, a Stanley
and he's
Cup.
he has 2 cups.
He has 1 cup, I believe. Yep, just the 1.
They only won the 1?
Yep. The Ducks have only won 1 cup, and the sadness of Jaguar winning the Conn Smythe but losing the cup.
I see. Boy. This one's hard because he's still he's right at a point per game. Like he's just below it.
Yeah. If you gave him 2 more seasons, he'd be a 1,000-point player. But if he retired today, another one that's like, boy, you could really go either way with it.
Yeah, and again, another guy though that had a peak that you were talking about. This guy is among the best in the league and the best in the world.
For sure.
Because you remember, there was a time, and it's hard to look at this in the historical context without looking at it in the individual years in terms of point scoring, because there was a time where scoring,
dead puck era, man, yeah.
Like a 70-point season, you're talking about, those guys were where it was at.
Yep.
So him having a 70-point season in 2014-15, we talk about a 70-point season today, and you're like, oh, hey, Matt Duchene, Dylan Larkin, those are Ryan O'Reilly. Those guys are good. But in terms of scoring, you're like, it's like top 30.
A 70-point season in the mid-10s is you're 25 points away from the top scorer in the league, not 50.
Yeah. Right. So, it's, man, he was always so dangerous with the puck too.
Somewhat unique as well with the physical side, being a bigger bodied player. Wasn't full Corey Perry, but certainly wasn't afraid to get dirty when he had to.
Yeah, and I mean, let's see here. He had that 07, 08, and he just has he rips off a run of point per game seasons, interrupted by just one random year in 11-12, where he had 57 points in 82 games, surrounded by point per game seasons in an era where guys just weren't doing it. Boy, he's really hard for me to leave out because his peak was so good, and I think we're going to have a hard time. History-wise, I think we're going to have a hard time with these guys from this era because there are some guys who are coming up on this list, guys like Backstrom, guys like Kessel, guys like Drew, Gaborik, Corey Perry. I mean, Justin Williams is kind of on. I mean, scoring-wise, he's in this neighborhood.
Sure.
Zach Parise, Blake Wheeler. What do we do with a lot of these guys? Because the scoring was just down. Right. And relative to their eras, they had it going on, but when you put them up historically, they just weren't the same levels. And this is where era adjustments would really be handy.
Yep.
I'm just not smart enough to do that, I guess.
I definitely don't have the math skills.
Yeah, and some of these two-way guys that are sitting here on this list, like a Marian Hossa, like that's an easy yes for me.
It's Bergeron. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Bergeron and Kopitar, I think those are both easy yeses. We're talking multiple cups, insanely good two-way games.
There's more than just scoring there, right? Yeah.
Right. Like there's reputation as like very, very, very high end on the defensive side as well. You know, just below a point per game. I mean, Jason Spezza, up until the last couple of years, he was a point per game player until he got to like age 35.
Yep.
And how much are you going to knock a guy for not being able to continue producing at a point per game pace? You know, when he gets into 1,000 games played and he's at 1,000 points. It's so rough with that. How to consider those types of guys who I think are generational greats, but maybe not all-time greats. And I think that's how I feel about Getzlaf and Spezza and Zetterberg and those fellas.
They fall right on the Hall of Fame line, basically.
Yeah. Where the Hockey Hall of Fame isn't like insanely restrictive, and I would rather it be like, hey, like maybe you have close, a couple
maybe
guys.
You let them in, yeah.
Maybe, I mean, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it being like, hey, erring on the side of letting a guy like Ryan Getzlaf in.
Sure. Multiple championship type things, whether it be Olympics or Cup or whatever. Best player on his team for a long time, whatever. Well, a couple more.
Did he ever win a major award? Did he ever come close enough? I don't have that in front of you.
I don't know if Quant Hockey lists the individual awards. Let's see.
I got this one. Okay. He had a second place finish in the Hart in 13-14.
Okay. Second place, pretty good.
Yeah, he's had a couple. He's finished in the top 10 in Hart voting 3 times.
Yeah.
He's also, speaking about two-way players, he's also gotten Selke votes. Like, and he never has gotten close to winning it. But Selke votes in 9 seasons, and some of these is like he finished 53rd, so he got like 1 4th place vote or something. But he did have a top 10 finish, and he finished 10th in Selke in 13-14.
Okay, I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock in that, but
no, but like just to give you some perspective, like this is why when we say, "Oh, award voting doesn't matter," is you look at historically, and you're like, okay, well, you know, he had a year. I would put more stock in the Hart finishes.
I think we both have agreed, at least off stream, also that we do not care about all-star appearances at all when it comes to this type of thing.
I don't, just because of the way that certainly how the system is now, where it's like you can only
voted in, and you have 3 players for
right. Like you have. Oh, hey, there has to be a guy from all 7 rosters. In your division. It's 8 in all the other divions. And it's
the like, home team just magically gets 3 players, and it's the rosters are just so small compared to what they used to be, where it was like, yeah, you could have 4 or 5 guys. If you were one of the best teams in the league, you can have those guys make cases. Not anymore. When it comes to all-star appearances, it just doesn't have that weight anymore. All right. Well, we can go ahead and wrap up this first period. We have some good questions in the live chat that we'll get to in a minute. But first, it's time to acknowledge Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR, on the taps over at the DNVR bar. Or you can always purchase, whether it be through Drizzly or head on down to your local grocery store even. They are in pretty much everywhere in and around Colorado. You can pick up that 15-can Mile High City Copper Lager, the Avalanche Amber, the Strawberry Sky, the new Mountain Beach, which I still haven't been able to get my hands on, but AJ was all over it the other day. But Plenty of amazing beers. You can even get it from their farmhouse down in Littleton when you call 303-803-1380. Schedule for pickup from noon to 8 p.m. and save $5 when you use code DNVR. On top of this, we also have my pick of the week for DraftKings. Right now, they're doing a little bit of a bonus boost here with golf actually properly returning. Look, the play-in matches between Tiger and Phil and them was interesting, but it wasn't a proper golf tournament. Golf is coming back, and they are giving you a plus 2,000 odds boost on both Rory McIlroy and Brooks Koepka hitting an eagle in the Charles Schwab Challenge. Just anytime during the tournament, if both of them get an eagle. So that's my pick of the week. You put down $10, you have a chance to win $200. Because professional golfers eagle.
The way that these guys are able to find ways to convince you to give them money is incredible. It's awesome. Because that's totally a bet that I would take.
Right. It's like,
I'm like, are you serious? Rory McIlroy in a tournament making one eagle?
Yep. You got to think the odds feel pretty good, right?
These guys are pretty good at golf. So it's not like eagle on an exact hole.
Nope.
He only gets one shot at it.
It's the whole tournament. So
you're like
up to 72 holes, assuming he makes the cut.
Yeah. You're like, all right, dude's got 72 swings at this thing.
So, hey, look, it's not quite the free money that the UFC betting on Amanda Nunes was.
I was going to say, betting on Amanda Nunes was like pretty easy.
Yeah. You want these odds, but
you wanted to go against her just because the odds were like they were enticing enough where you're like, oh man.
Well, did you see the dude? I don't know if you watched the fight or not, but
no.
They talked about it on the cast where some dude bet $1 million for win 166,000 on Amanda Nunes, and it's like there's like you won, dude, but that risk was not worth the reward.
Yeah. What are you doing with that $166,000 that you couldn't have just done with the million you dropped?
Exactly.
Of course, I feel like making a bet like that is entirely about saying you made the bet.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they talked about it on air.
Fair point.
That guy
he got what he wanted, yeah.
That guy was sitting there wherever he was with those peeps and being like, y'all know who that is. Well, that's me. I would make sure if they were talking about my bet live on air and I was the guy that bet $1 million on an outcome, I would have been like, that's my ticket. And then I would have had bodyguards surrounding me to make sure that people don't get a little hyphy. But it would have been awesome. I would make damn sure everybody knows that was me.
Fair enough. Well, if you want to be that guy and bet $1 million over on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, you can. Head on over. You'll even get a $1,000 bonus when you sign up with code DNVR. DraftKings Sportsbook is going all out for all of y'all as we are still pretty new to this whole sports betting thing here in Colorado. You must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. Cygnus in the chat brought up someone that, goalies are weird and all, but Marc-Andre Fleury, if he retired today, he has 3 Stanley Cups in his back pocket. I mean,
no.
You think even with a 4th Stanley Cup appearance with Vegas?
Well, let's be real. He wasn't the starting. He wasn't the starting goaltender on 2 of the Pittsburgh wins.
That is very true.
That's like being like, that's like trying to see the Avs win the cup with Pavel Francouz starting in net for them this year. It's like being, Philip Grubauer's won 2 cups. Sure, technically, yeah. But, Flower didn't start those games. So, Flower has 1 cup as the starter, as the man.
He has 1 cup. I'll also say he's barely in the top 25 in save percentage in the league currently. This is all players with a minimum of 200 games played in the league. Make what you want of the wins category. That is the category he leads in the NHL, which that's a whole nother debate.
He's what, 5th all time in wins?
We can look up the all-time numbers here. Let me see. Yeah, 5th, just ahead of Hank.
And like, we'll put some distance there because he's got time.
Hank is winding down, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Fleury could catch both Belfour and Luongo in the next couple of years. And you're talking about 3rd all time in wins. I mean, is Luongo
Hall of Famer?
I say yes. The save percentage that he had over 1,000 games, and he finishes with a 919. Girl, please, that's too good.
He certainly seemed like a Hall of Famer every time the Avs came to town.
Oh, he destroyed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, gosh, a guy with that much success, it's really hard to leave Flower and say no.
Let's see.
And I mean, you have the magic of, hey, he backstopped an expansion team to within what, 3 wins of the cup?
Yep.
And like, you go and you look at that team and you're like, look, that was a solid team, but why were they there? Number one reason was Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah. It's always goaltending when it comes to those type of teams.
So I've talked myself into no and now yes. Screw it. You could say he's a little overrated, but he's still a Hall of Famer. Not
a great international record. 2 silvers at the under-20 World Championships. Never really got taken to Olympics or the men's World Championships, things like that. So,
well, and you could say, okay, well, he didn't get to go to World Championships because he was always playing into the playoffs.
Very fair, but no Olympics nonetheless. Still, yeah, sure. You can only bring so many goalies, but
right. And then you're playing in an area in the era of Carey Price.
Yep. But even as a backup, never been making it. You have to wonder a little bit there. As far as awards voting, the best he ever finished for the Vezina was 4th, and that was in 18-19 with Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. How much of those wins were just because he was on Pittsburgh for that?
Right. When they were winning 60 games a year.
Yeah. He's had Crosby and Malkin his entire career.
Yep. Yeah, that's a tough. I think I actually lean towards no on Fleury right now.
I think so too. As I continue to flip flop on him, he's just such a tough case.
Yep.
How much do you value wins? And like how much is wins a valuable statistic to you? It's a team stat. It's awarded to one player. He's got 3 Stanley Cups, but he was on the bench for the last 2.
I mean, you look at playoff performance in the playoffs. He has a 911 save percentage.
Like solid.
But nothing spectacular, yeah.
Yeah, but he's got 3 cups. We're putting Roberto Luongo, who never won a cup, and we're like, oh, yeah, easily.
I think we're showing our biases, perhaps, of not caring as much about cups as many Hall of Fame.
Well, and not, like, obsessing over team accomplishments when it comes to assessing the quality of a player's career.
Yep.
Like Jonathan Taves probably gets into the real Hall of Fame, and I wouldn't put him in.
I was gonna get to him actually, and so again, I agree with you. He has 3 cups that he captained a team to, but the player himself is not a Hall of Fame caliber player.
Insane international success too. A couple of golds, like he will have had every team accomplishment imaginable when his career is over. He will just have just stacks of accomplishments, and I don't care.
But this is a guy who's .864 points per game, 815 points in 943 games played. Doesn't even have 350 goals yet in his career as he approaches the 1,000 game mark.
Let's see what that looks like at the end of his career.
Right, and
that could be like a 0.7 points per game, and you're just like,
is that guy going downhill? Can a Jonathan Toews hang around and have a long enough career to be an accumulator and end up like a Patrick Marleau? And ultimately, then he probably deserves to get in on his own merits. But if he retired today, he'd get in because of the cups and gold medals, but the players on ice product, I don't think deserves to be in.
Yeah.
And yet he's still in the NHL's top 100 players of all time.
Well, they made that list once, so.
Danny Romero in the chat asks, what are the bar minimum requirements to get into the Hall of Fame? And I understand that's a bit of a moving target based on what you won in your career and things like that. But
there's a couple of big statistical benchmarks, I think, that are meaningful, that if you hit them, you force your way into a conversation. I think 500 goals is one of them, because that's just...
Yep, I would agree.
That's so many goals.
Yep.
Like, that's not like you had a good stretch for 4 years, you know? I mean, you go look at, like, Danny Heatley's career is a great example. Like, that guy was extremely good, elite for a handful of years, and it just won't be nearly enough.
500 goals in the NHL is more goals than most human beings play organized hockey games in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an absurd number when you actually start to think about it.
Right. I mean, 500 goals at the highest level. Like, it's so impressive. That's not to say 400 goals isn't, but you got to separate somewhere.
Yep.
I think when you start to hit 1,000 games played, I think that's also kind of like
definitely a big number.
We're talking about longevity. Well. Longevity, I think, is always important. Now, if you're very special, you know, Lindros, Forsberg, Bure, you look at, okay, they don't hit those numbers, but
but they're also
the rest of their careers.
Over a point per game in their shortened career. So
right, Paul Correa, another guy where the statistical resume might come up a little bit short, but you're like the highest of the high in terms of peaks in their careers.
All right, we've done the easy stuff. We've talked about the forwards. We've gleaned over the defensemen a little bit here. So I'm just going to go in point total order here. Brent Burns?
No.
I think it's a pretty easy no for me as well. Next two on my list, I think, are an easy yes. Chara and Keith.
Yes.
EK is a yes.
Yes.
And then things get interesting after that. Ryan Suter, Keith Yandel, and Shea Weber.
Keith Yandel, no.
573 points in 976 games as a defenseman.
No shame in that. Guy's had a great career. I don't think there's ever been a point in Keith Yandel's career where he was a top 5 defenseman in the NHL.
I would be hard pressed to disagree with that. He's never won anything.
Top 10? Like,
I mean, his best offensive season came 2 years ago in Florida with 62 points.
Yeah, for Yandel, I think is an easy no. While acknowledging, look, the guy's had a great career.
Hall of very good, I would agree.
Yeah. Will finish as one of the most underrated and underappreciated offensive defensemen of this generation.
No, yeah. Came 5th in the Norris voting in 2011, and that's the closest he ever got.
Okay. So that's Weber and Suter are tough because there have been a number of years where they were superstars.
If Weber's healthy, I think he's in for sure.
Yeah.
But he's not been healthy.
Well, and Suter's just a machine. He's going to continue.
He'd play out the rest of his contract. Already has 1,100 games.
Right. Like he could have a Chara-esque kind of longevity here. The big problem with Suter is that he shackled himself to Minnesota for his career.
Yep.
He will never have the kind of postseason success. He might have some international success, but it won't be much. Because he was born in the wrong country.
Oops. He did have World Junior gold medal, but has an Olympic second place and has to live with that.
World Junior is like way more impressive when like you're talking about like a guy whose career where you're just like, oh, and he won in juniors.
Right. When they're completing the triple. Yeah. Yeah,
it's not like the thing that like props up your international resume. Where you're like, well, as a 17-year-old, you know. Boy, I think I put Suter in.
Did have a second place Norris year, a fourth place Norris year.
He's so good, and he continues to be outstanding.
There's the style of play too, right? For a guy who's like, you're like, all right, he's gonna play 30 minutes every single night. That's a lot of hockey.
Yeah.
For 1,100 games.
Just keeps chugging away, yeah. Yeah, what is his time on ice in his career?
It's a lot, I can tell you that. Average
25-11.
Yeah, that's his average. His total is 28, almost 29,000 minutes.
Yeah. So in his career, you look at 8 years in Minnesota. So 7 years in Nashville, he averaged 22-37. For the last 8 years in Minnesota, it's been 27-29.
Yep.
And this year was the lowest that he's ever had in Minnesota.
At 24-38.
At 24-38, yeah.
That's insane.
He had a 2-year stretch where he was at 29, 29, and 28.5.
For reference.
That's insane. He's playing half the game. For 3 straight years, he played half the game.
Shea Weber, who has been in the league just as long, averages over a minute less of average time on ice per game. And total minutes is more than 5,000 minutes behind.
That's
just under 5,000, excuse me.
That's 3 seasons.
Yep.
It's 2.5 seasons of high-end defenseman play.
Yep.
And the injuries in the last 3 years have slowed him down so much. Basically, he had one great year in Montreal, and then he's been great when he's been healthy for the Canadiens. He just hasn't stayed that way.
100%. The injuries have really hampered his career.
He's had so many high finishes in the Norris. Like,
I will say he also is the goal scoring leader of defensemen.
He has 5 top 5 finishes in the Norris.
Yep.
Including 2 second place finishes, a third, and 2 fourths. And then he also has a 6th and 8th, a 10th, like a 7th, like so.
He's got like 8 top 10s.
Yeah, like this is. I think Shea Weber is a yes, even with the injuries here at the end. Oh my gosh, he was just so good.
Yeah, he was a different beast for sure with that slap shot too. 2 gold medals at the Olympics. International success is there. So
nice. Got the mute button.
Well done.
Yeah, just sneeze my face off.
So, all right, I think Weber is a yes. I'm looking up and down the rest of this list, and I don't know that I see another, if they retired today, another defensive Hall of Famer.
I think the one that I think really jumps out, I think Drew Doughty is going to make a really interesting case because I think the first half of his career, multiple cups, was the co superstar of those Kings teams next to Kopitar, who I said yes on.
does have a Norris.
I want to see what the second half of his career looks like.
For sure.
I guess, because since the Kings stopped being good, so did he. Yeah. And I think that's if homie can't get himself to take it seriously because the Kings are bad, I think it's going to be a tough look.
Playing himself out of the hall, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, is that like Taves, like just so much success, right? Like two Stanley Cups, multiple gold medals, and as one of the stars of those teams too. Not like a guy that was like the third pairing defenseman who just sort of took the ice, you know?
Yeah, but I guess this is another guy, like, if he plays long enough, you know, he'll hit 1,000 games pretty soon. Yeah. For a defenseman, if he can get up to like 700 points.
Yeah. And if he could get to 600 points,
he should get to 600, I think. But yeah.
I would say, I think, let's assume like a solid finish to Doughty's career. I would say certainly yes on the trajectory.
Yeah, and we'll get into some more guys like that in just a minute here. But boy, yeah, that's fair.
I think a guy that stands out on this list as interesting, I would say no, but certainly interesting would be Jay Bouwmeester.
Yeah, that's definitely not a Hall of Fame career, I don't think.
But a recognition of, just an excellent player for a very, very long time.
That is the type of player that I think the St. Louis Blues should consider retiring his number.
Did he play enough there? His career was kind of odd because
he did bounce around.
He had three teams that you think, when I think of Jay Bouwmeester, there are three teams that I remember him playing for. I guess, yeah, he did play half his career in St. Louis.
8 years in St. Louis, including this one. And presumably his career is over.
Yeah, and it's just that the injuries kept the games played low.
What are people doing on Quant Hockey? I'm just scrolling through most recent Jay Bouwmeester comparisons. Alex Ovechkin and David Krejci. What?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
Bouwmeester, definitely a different type of defenseman than some of these ones at the top.
I think Bouwmeester really sort of provided a model for what teams wanted as they transitioned from one era, because when he was drafted, it was, you still wanted your number one guy to be a rugged, mean, nasty player. And he was never really that guy. He was sort of a transition to great skating, reliable puck moving,
modern defensive D.
Yeah, kind of what you're looking for today. In terms of like your top guy, where it's like he could get physical, wasn't really that guy. Like he has 800 hits in his career, but only 2 years were more than 100, and it was early in his career. So never really an overly physical guy, but did it a little bit. Was more, definitely did the blocked shot thing, but not at like a super, super high level. I think provided a good blueprint for modern day defensemen to kind of follow. Well, you can be successful if you're great on your feet and you move pucks. Yeah. But the rest of these guys, if they were to end their careers today,
yeah, it's hard.
I think a guy that, no surprise, a guy that's on his way is a guy like Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah.
Roman Josi.
Josi for sure, I would say.
Victor Hedman.
Yeah. And you can go down the list. Some other interesting ones down there, depending on the longevity of someone like a Vlasic or...
Chris Letang is a pretty interesting one. He's, 3 cups and The health really was the big thing with him, though. I don't know that Letang would make it just because the games played is so low.
How many years does that guy have left is the question.
Yeah. And how productive does he remain in those years? Maybe if he stays at the exact same level he's at now, maybe he does pump that up, and we look back 5 years from now and we're like, damn, Chris Letang.
This is a lock, yeah.
Yeah, like this dude forced his way in. But for right now, I would say the injuries might have cost Chris Letang a Hall of Fame.
Yep. I definitely think they did at this point, but you never know. Guys down the list, John Klingberg, of course, Cale Makar, if you're really projecting, but
yeah, I mean, you want to look forward. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin and Heiskanen, and
right.
Of course, Quinn Hughes. I mean, how can you not?
Well, we can get into a little bit more of that projecting in the third period, but when you do retire, you usually end up playing a lot of golf, especially if you're a hockey player. But now you can do that without leaving your couch. With WGT Golf, they have now partnered with us here at DNVR. You can head on over to DNVRgolf.com to download the game and join the DNVR Clubhouse. WGT Golf is a free golf game that is loved by more than 20 million players around the world. You can even play it on your phone. So if you're on the go, riding the train or something like that, just pick it open, play a quick round, get in even on the DNVR tournaments that we have every other weekend, playing real-to-life courses like St. Andrews, Bethpage Black, and Pebble Beach, many others too. You can compete head-to-head with us here at DNVR. There's always people trying to throw together matches over in the DNVR lounge. Adam trying to snake you in a best-of-one series on golf holes, which is ridiculous, but nonetheless, you can jump in on it again at DNVRgolf.com to download WGT Golf today. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's with Rudo and AJ. So, retiring today is a little bit easier because you don't have to project. Okay, I do want to do full projecting here, but there is one player that I think at least I would like to talk about a little bit, and that being Ilya Kovalchuk.
No.
He is
going back to Russia. Cost it.
You think so?
He would have had a 600 goal career.
I mean, if he stayed in the NHL, I think he's the easiest lock ever.
Yep.
But
he didn't. And what were his major Russian accomplishments?
He won 2 Gagarin Cups. Was over a point per game player in Russia in about 300 games. I don't know where to find Russian MVP of the league stuff like that.
There you go.
But
so the short version of that was, who cares?
Okay, sure. Nonetheless, this is
like we're not putting guys in the Hall of Fame because of shit they do in the KHL. When you walk away from the NHL, you're kind of giving the league the finger, and I think this is a good way for the league to give him the finger right back.
He does have an Olympic gold. He did win a Rocket Richard when he was in the NHL.
So did Duke.
Yeah, it's true. But Duke wasn't exactly close to a point per game player either.
I just think he walked away during an important stretch of his career where, had he stayed and continued to be productive and do what he was doing, he was easily on that track. But when you take yourself off that track, you take yourself off that track.
All right. I will. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. Had he stayed,
you get off the train headed for the Hall of Fame to Toronto. You don't get to punch your ticket at the end saying you got there. He hopped off.
So the thing is, had he stayed even a few more years.
Yeah. Had he stayed, I mean,
he would have hit
years.
500 goals, probably 900 points anyway, if not 1,000. So, I don't know if it's the state. Maybe it's the other side. Maybe he just took a little bit too long to come back.
Sure.
But either way,
I mean, Malkin and Crosby are like obvious.
Super duper auto locks. Yeah. There's not even really a conversation there. So
so Kovalchuk, I think, is a no, because there was just never. He just took himself out of there.
Yep.
This wasn't like a Forsberg or a Lindros where he got hurt and he tried, and he just things were taken from him. He walked. He made those choices. He wanted to make $15 million in Russia per year, and he couldn't make it in the United States. And there's nothing wrong with making that decision. Financially, it was probably the right decision for him, but you don't also get to turn around and be in the Hall of Fame, because I don't care what he did in the KHL. I don't care what anybody does in the KHL when it comes to the Hall of Fame. Those accomplishments don't mean anything to me. When you choose to not participate in the highest level, you don't then turn around and get handed the highest reward. Just how I feel about it. He was absolutely 1,000% on his way, and he just chose a different path, and that's totally fine.
But he's just not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like you just won't make the Hall. He'll be one of the great what could have beens, what should have beens. He walked away. Okay. I mean, for years. I mean, go back and watch every documentary about how hard Russian players fought to come over here. Yep. And the crazy nonsense they had to go through to get over here.
It's a great documentary about Malkin.
And he did, he spit on all of that.
Yeah. I mean,
and I personally just don't think he gets rewarded for it. Maybe it sounds like I'm taking this too personally. Like I'm like, oh well, he turned his back on the highest league in the world that people scratch and claw and dedicate their entire lives to playing in, and he said no thank you. And like Pavel Datsyuk did the same thing, but he did it because he wanted to go be with his family. And he'd already achieved so much. Pavel Datsyuk is a slam dunk easy Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And Kovalchuk just said no, and then wanted to come back because the KHL instituted a salary cap, and he could no longer make crazy pants money over there.
Okay.
And so he came back to the NHL. It was and like there's nothing wrong with the player who chases money in his career. I never begrudge players who want to get paid. But there are certain things when you leave the best league in the world, you don't get to then turn around and say you were one of the all-time greatest players. You had a chance to prove that, and you chose a different path.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I've come around to it, but I do want to project a couple. Well, all right. Let's project one of these. The other one, I don't even know if you need to project. Nikita Kucherov.
Yes. On the path.
Would not be in if he retired today, though.
Definitely.
Steven Stamkos.
On the path.
You don't think he'd get in? Over a point per game in 800 games played? Does the cup matter for them?
It sure helps all of their legacies.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe Stamkos most of all, just because he's been around the longest.
I think it would help Stamkos more than Kucherov for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Kucherov and Hedman, I think, are on their way. If Stamkos doesn't have any significant drop off in the next 5 years, he's probably on his way too.
I would think so. Yeah. There's obvious ones, Draisaitl, McDavid, if they keep doing what they're doing. Yeah, they're locks, whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm assuming you haven't prepared for this, but off the top of your head, any dark horse candidates? Any candidates you love to sneak in possibly?
Candidates that I would love to sneak in as potential Hall of Famers who are what? Like, give me some more.
We can go with current NHL players first of all.
I think a guy that's going to have a really interesting end of career conversation is Panarin.
You think so? You don't think that one's looking like a lock? Assuming he continues to play.
The thing with it, he's only got 300 games played.
He is 28.
And like his 20s are running out. And so you wonder if he finishes with 600 games played, 700 games played, and he only finishes with 500 points, 600 points.
Yeah, that's probably not going to do it. But
yeah, it's, he would need, it would need to be a spectacular run. He would need to like win the Hart this year kind of thing.
He would need another, to maintain the production he's doing now well into his 30s, basically.
Yeah, at least until he's like 34, 35.
Yep.
So I think that's a guy that's going to have a really just a fascinating conversation.
Sure.
When it's done, because he just got such a late start.
Yeah.
I do wonder kind of what happens with the guy like Jack Eichel. He's at a point per game already in his career. But we also know
Buffalo a little bit, yeah.
If he can't make the postseason, what do you do there? To respond to Cygnus in the chat about can Bishop work his way into it? I think Ben Bishop is one of this generation's most underrated goaltenders. If you go back and you look, I think it's 6 of the last 7 years, he's been at least a league average goaltender. And in all but one of those years, he was better than that. And the one he didn't have that great of a year was the year he ended up in LA where he got moved and it was a contract year and it was just not a great year for him. But he's otherwise been either good to outstanding for the better part of a decade. And, sure, if he can keep that up for 5 more years, then I think that definitely turns into a conversation.
Fighting words, AJ. In the chat. You got any?
Konigsberg placed Carolina barbecue above Texas barbecue. I can understand KC barbecue because KC barbecue is unimpeachable and it's incredible. But placing Carolina barbecue ahead of Texas barbecue strongly suggests RK hasn't ever been to Texas.
There you go.
And if he has been, he's been going to the wrong places. He's going to like Famous Dave's or some bullshit and not going to the places he needs to go.
There you go. AJ throwing down.
I almost want to just pay for RK to fly down to Dallas, go to Pecan Lodge, and fly back. And try and make an argument for anything in Carolina. Get the hell out. That frustrates me. That disrespect. Everybody hates Texas.
I'm going to give you one final exercise in sadness here, AJ, for yourself.
Okay.
Got to do it to you, unfortunately. John Tavares.
Oh, no. I was like, what are you talking about? And then just before you said it, I realized where we were headed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as far as traders go, he's definitely way up there. I think he's on the path.
I would agree.
I think he's on the path, and if he dare acknowledges the first 9 years of his career during his Hall acceptance speech, I'll fight him on stage. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. I guess that's as good a place as any to end the podcast today. Thank you, everyone, as always, for listening. You know, we'll be here 5 days a week. Today, if you watch live, we do have our usual prospect watch coming up this evening at 6 p.m. We will be watching Alex Bocage, the elite Q sniper himself. So be sure to tune in to that one. Come hang out and watch our Avs prospects with us. But yeah, I guess until tomorrow, we will see all of y'all next time. Green Mountain Dental Group is in Lakewood, and they're the best family-owned dentist in the metro area. Plus, they're extreme Colorado sports fans, just like all of us. When you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, you'll get a free Sonicare toothbrush. So be sure to give us a tweet. Send us a little picture of your awesome Sonicare that you got for heading on down there. They're just 15 minutes from downtown over in Lakewood, and taking care of your teeth is a great first step for overall good health. Again, free Sonicare toothbrush with a cleaning, x-ray, and exam. My chat, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. As I was fully unprepared for this next part, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. We are...